Welcome to Brand Builders TV. Deep dive topics, tools and resources brought to you by global thought leaders from within the Brand Builders Club. This show gives you access to the strategies that you can use to move forward with ease and flow in every area of your life and business. In today's show, Loubna is going to share some strategies to reduce overwhelm so that you know exactly what you're going to do to achieve your goals. There are strategies and habits that you can use to reduce overwhelm, and in this session, Loubna is going to share some of these strategies so that you can get things done. Grab a pen, something to drink, and a piece of paper, and let's get started. Learn it, model it, and get shit done. Let's go.
So much to do, so many options, so many different things that are asking or even demanding time and attention from you. How are you ever gonna get it all done? You feel already overwhelmed, tired and stressed. And you might even be starting wondering, am I ever going to get this done? Shouldn't I be doing something else? Maybe I'm not the right person to be doing this. Well, on this session, I'm going to show you a way how you can get from overwhelmed to organized, because there are ways how to deal with this state that is called overwhelmed. So welcome to the Brand Builders TV for this week's show. I am Loubna, also known as the Action Accelerator, and I mentor entrepreneurs like you to gain clarity, focus and momentum with lightning speed. Because let's be honest, we do not have time to waste, and we shouldn't waste time, because time is something that we can't get back. I have spent the last 2 decades already, I had to calculate that really fast, discovering and experimenting with different tools, strategies and even habits to answer the question, how can I get it done while still having enough time for life? Because let's be honest, work can be very demanding, and if work is the only thing that is profound in your life, then you're not living your life to the fullest of potential. As we've got family, we've got friends, we want to spend time on enhancing our health, many things. So work should not be the only thing. So my passion is to find out how can we be as effective as we can. So how can I minimize the effort that I put into something to maximize the results that I want to get. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you today about overwhelm, because I see it so many times with people in general, but with entrepreneurs specifically even more. And there are a couple of reasons why that is. We live in a world where there is no shortage of information, of things that are constantly distracting us from what we want to do and what we're gonna get done. And it's very unique to be in this situation, because you want, how am I going to say this? It's becoming more and more important to have the discipline to focus and be clear on where you want to go, because the pull of everything outside of us is bigger and sometimes even stronger than you and I would like it to be. So most people, just imagine this thing, most people when they wake up, the very first thing that they grab is their phone. And I think I'm just going to look for a little bit, and they see the notifications popping up. Maybe you do that. And before you know it, you're still lying in bed, maybe you got out of bed and you're sitting on your bed, and you're going through your email, the notifications on social media, and you can waste a lot of time doing that. And it's the very first thing that you do. And maybe you spend hours scrolling through Instagram. Maybe you've even been tempted to post something in that moment in time. There are a lot of people that spend several hours on social media. It's one of the biggest distractors in the world right now. And bearing in mind, just Facebook alone, the platform that we are on right now, has 1.4 1.4 billion active users every day. And all of that 1.4 billion users are producing information that pops up in your timeline. So, and that's just one example of how your time can be demanded. You've got family that wants to spend time with you. You've got friends that want to spend time with you. You want to go to the gym or exercise or go for a walk. There are many, many, many things that can demand your time and that can trigger the feeling of overwhelm and stress. Now, if you're watching this, you are a purpose-driven entrepreneur ready to make an impact in the world. You want to work on your messaging. You want to be clear about who you are, what you do, what your gifts are in the world. You want to get yourself known out there, and before you know it, your to-do list is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There are so many things you need to do, and if you're a solopreneur, you are wearing all of those hats. So overwhelm is easy. It's easy to get in that stress and in that overwhelm. And it's a state that I don't want you to be in for very long. And it doesn't really have to. So, one of the things, there are many things, but one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk about this topic specifically in this time, we're going into the last 10 weeks of 2020. And those are including the holidays, so Christmas and everything else in December that's happening. We've got Halloween coming up for the US friends, so many, many things. So before you know it, effectively, you've only got a couple of weeks to get something done and to make the most out of 2020, because that is still possible. So it is really important to get clear and focused what you want to achieve in 2020 to set you up for an amazing 2021. We've been able to get used to a little bit of the global pandemic and the impact that it has had on our business and our lives. So we have a frame of reference of what we can do. So it's even more important now we have that information to make the decisions that are going to move our businesses forward. So one of the downsides of being in a state of overwhelm and stress is that it impacts your productivity and performance. It can literally leave you frozen and paralyzed to the extent that you're so in your head having all of these negative thoughts and emotions about what you're up against right now that you do not take action, or you take the wrong action. And I want you to spend your time in an effective manner. I want you to spend your energy in an effective manner. I want you to spend your attention in an effective manner, because none of us are going to be in a great position if we let this overwhelm consume us even more and get us into an unhealthy situation, because it will in the long run impact your physical health. And I don't want you to ever get to that state, and if you're already in there, to get you out of it as soon as possible. And I want to be very clear, because there are a lot of people that have a different perspective on overwhelm. You might define it in a different way. Now, overwhelm is an emotional state. It's something that is in your head and manifests physically. It's different than overload, because one of the things that I hear most of the time when entrepreneurs explain overwhelm to me is, I've got so much to do. Well, that so much might be because you've just said yes to too many things. Overwhelm is you're in your thought. You're in your thoughts so much, you're immersed in your thought that you're overthinking every challenge that you've got. And because you're overthinking it, it triggers cortisol levels in our body, which is the stress hormone. And you're literally just thinking about it, not doing anything, and your fight and flight response kicks in. And that means that to get into reducing that overwhelm, we need to focus on what you're thinking and how you're thinking it. If it's overload, so you've got just too much to do, too many tasks to do, then a solution is in prioritizing. But more on that later in this session. Overthinking and overwhelmed, a dangerous combo. Yes, it is very dangerous, because the overthinking is what's causing the overwhelm. You're literally trying in your brain to manage all of this here, and our conscious brain can only manage a certain amount of information at the same time. Our subconscious can do much, much, much more. Think of it as, and I'm an ITer, so forgive me for the metaphor and analogy, is the difference between a regular computer you might have on your desk right now and a supercomputer. Now, the regular computer is your conscious. Now, think about it. If that memory of that computer runs full, it becomes slower and slower. Now, that is similar to when you get overwhelmed. The supercomputer takes a lot more to slow down the supercomputer. It can happen, but less likely, and it takes a longer time to trigger that response. So because we have to work with our conscious brain, we want to make sure that we do that in the best way that we know how. So it's important that overwhelm is an emotional state triggered by thoughts, and overload is you've just overcommitted yourself to too many things, so it requires a different thing. So when I talk about overwhelm, I mean the emotional state of overthinking and being immersed in thoughts and emotions. So now that we've got that out of the way, I can imagine right now, Loubna, when are you going to share some of the strategies that I can use to either prevent or to reduce the overwhelm that you might be in right now, or when you get into it again, you can work with. Now, like every strategy and every tool and any habit, if it's not part of your work routine, it will be effective in the moment that you might use it, but if you want to make it effective in the long run, you will want to build on those habits. You want to make it into a habit, some of these things that I want to share with you. And that takes practice. It's simple strategies, but it's not easy to implement, because us human beings have to work against all of our conditioning from the past, all of the things that we have learned about how we work and what we want to work on. And yeah, come on, Loubna. Well, I'm high energy and let's get this show on the road. And I really want you to get this right, because let's be honest, none of us ever had a positive influence from overwhelm. So, and I want you to get organized, because it is possible. It absolutely is possible. So I'm going to get to the juicy bit now that we've got our perspective right. So like I said, overwhelm is an emotional state, and the emotions are triggered by our thoughts. So when you find yourself in overwhelm, and you might want to think about whether you're in overwhelm right now, that might be, or you have been in overwhelm, think about one of those moments and notice, let's have this juicy bit. I know, it's juicy. So notice your thoughts. And it is a practice that no matter what state you're in, whether you're excited or happy or overwhelmed or feeling anxiety or fear, it is very good to have the practice and habit of noticing your thoughts. Now, on average, every human being has between 60,000 and 90,000 thoughts a day. Now, I'll repeat that. Anywhere between 60,000 and 90,000 thoughts a day. Now, those are a lot of thoughts. Now, the good news is most of them are fully automatic. You are not aware of them. And a big portion are the same thoughts you had yesterday. So the only way that we can start noticing them is to give them some attention, because everything that you give attention to grows. And that means stillness. That means not rushing through today, but literally pausing, hitting that pause button for 5 minutes. Now, anyone can find 5 minutes if you have to do that on the toilet. Excuse my language, but if you have to find time, there's a lot of time to be found. So 5 minutes, pause, and notice the thoughts that are coming up. So that you can get into this practice when you feel overwhelmed, it's easier to remind your brain of, I want to get into this state of noticing my thoughts. And I want to, one warning, be compassionate. A thought is a thought, that's it. Whether it's a positive thought or a negative thought, be compassionate. Don't beat yourself up, because then you're just going to solidify the negative state you're already in. And I want you to get out of it. So just acknowledge it without any judgment at all. And think about it every time that you say, and you start noticing to the things like, I'm never going to get this done. It's a negative thought. Or I'm not capable of doing this. This is not for me. Maybe I should just give up. Is a negative thought. So think about what you're thinking and notice what you're saying, whether that is to someone else or you're saying it to yourself. Just notice it and have it let go. Again, if you find yourself in that state and you start to notice your thoughts and your running patterns, you can train yourself to remind yourself that you've been through challenges before. You have been through some of the biggest issues that you've been through in your life. Tap into that resilience. And I did a session on resilience a couple of weeks ago. So if you are interested in knowing how to build your resilience up, go back to the session on the Brand Builders TV page. You will find a couple of ways that you can build your resilience muscle up so that you can even deal with better challenges. So remind yourself, this is not new to you. It might feel new, but you can go through this because you've been through this before. It doesn't have to cripple you. Now, tip number two is our breathing is very powerful. And most of the time we don't notice our breathing. Most of us breathe very shallow and high. But when you're in overwhelm, the best thing that you can do and have as a practice is to take a couple of deep breaths. And there are different breaths that you can take, but the best one is very deep because we don't tend to do that much of the time. And breathe out. Your breathing, when you do that, the deep breaths, it will trigger your body's relaxation response. You literally relax in that moment. So whenever the negative thoughts trigger overwhelm for you, you're going to use the mind-body connection to relax yourself in that state so that you can deactivate the amygdala, which is the part of the brain in the back, which is our fear center. Because as soon as that hits, you get more access to your prefrontal cortex, which is our CEO system that helps us planning, creativity, and taking action. Because if this piece is activated, this piece is not working as well as it could be. So we want to relax as soon as possible. So breathing is a great way. It's very simple. You can, if it's a habit, you can instantly activate it. Even if you have to remind yourself by using prompt or post-it that you have somewhere in your working space or around the house, remember to breathe. Most of these practices, noticing your thoughts and breathing, is something that you can practice right now, whether you're feeling overwhelmed or not. And the more you practice it, the more you master it, but the more you also have muscle memory, so your body will remind you this is what you need to do. Okay, so we've got notice your thoughts and tap into your challenge, how you dealt with challenge before. Breathing, deep breathing is very important. And number 3, I found myself thinking wrongly about my fingers today. And that's all about how you think and what you think. But one of the things that I've learned myself, but also teach other people, is we tend to think, because we're wearing all of those hats, that we have to solve every problem and every challenge today. It needs to be solved today. Now, you're going to be you're pressurizing yourself by thinking that, because one, most problems and challenges don't necessarily have to be solved today. They can take a little bit more time, and you don't have to solve them alone. As soon as you train your asking for help muscle, and I know how difficult it is. I mean, I'm one of the people that thought for a very long time, I have to do this alone. I have to be able to do this alone. No, why should I be even considering asking for help? This is something that I should be doing. I'm a grown-up. Well, it's not helpful because, one, I don't know everything. Number 2, I can't do everything. So it really is helpful to ask for help and to be able to do that in the best way that you can. Because you don't have to solve it. You won't be able to solve everything in every today necessarily. So start building that asking for help muscle. One of the other things that you can do when you're in overwhelm is to literally brain dump everything from your head onto a piece of paper. And I've had a client a year ago who literally said, oh, I want to do this and this and this and this and this and this, and literally said, oh, I don't know where I'm going to start, and it's so much, and I'm never going to get this done. She was literally in a state of overwhelm at that moment in time. And I said to her, I want you to tell me everything that you've got in your head about what you want to do and need to do and have to do, and let's put it on a piece of paper. Just the mere act of brain dumping everything on paper relieved her brain from that pressure of trying to remember everything, which our conscious brain is not good at, and putting it onto paper. Step 2 was to order this in priority, in urgency. So what's important and what's urgent. And by doing that, she literally had a visual about what she needed to do in what order to get all of the things that she first thought she would never get done, made it achievable. Because as long as it stays here, it's gonna seem impossible, because your brain is not wired to do that ordering and planning and strategizing for you. You really need to get it out of your brain and visual onto a piece of paper so that you can have a visual on what you need to do in what order. So that's number 3. Number 4, and this is something that I've seen happen in a couple of Facebook groups that I'm part of. People try to go faster than they necessarily have to go. If you're saying to yourself, I need to do this faster, I need to do this faster, I need to do this faster, you're literally putting pressure on you that might not be necessary in any way, shape or form. There is very good research around setting yourself a deadline, because then you get focused and clear, you know what you need to achieve by what time, but you don't have to go fast. One of the reasons that people tend to think that they need to go fast is because they compare themselves to other entrepreneurs. Now, this is one of the downsides of social media. You see what other people are doing, especially if you follow a lot of other entrepreneurs. You're thinking, oh my God, but if they can do it, why am I not there yet? And you try to skip. Well, one of the things that you really need to be mindful about is not everyone shares everything about their journey on social media. Most of the time you get all of the highs, not necessarily the lows. You don't get why they want to do. You don't get necessarily what their goals are, and you don't get to learn about them in terms of, there are exceptions to this rule. So you're literally comparing yourself to someone who has different values, different personalities, different strengths, which just makes it a difficult thing to do. So instead of comparing yourself to someone else, don't compare. That's number 1, because each and every one of us is on a different journey with a different speed. And if you tend to compare, if that's your natural response to things, then my suggestion for you is to compare yourself. Hello, Mark. Great to have you. Is to compare yourself to who you were yesterday and the progress that you have made since yesterday. Because that's an honest comparison. That's a realistic comparison. So I'd rather have you not compare yourself at all to someone else in any way, shape, or even to yourself. But if you tend to compare, that's something that you naturally do, then compare yourself to who you were yesterday and the progress you meant to have since that time. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5, and that is what I see when I help people get to that. So a lot of us tend to, how am I going to use, what are the words that I'm looking for right now? Some of us entrepreneurs tend to focus on getting it right immediately. we tend to want to have everything perfect. It has to be in a certain way before we start taking action or before we share it with the world. I see a lot of people when they think about, oh my God, I'm thinking about launching an online course, but I want it to be perfect before they do anything. Now, one of the people that I follow is Rob Moore. Now, Rob Moore has written a book, Start Now, Get Perfect Later, where the essence of his message is basically start, just start, and improve along the way, because you can't know everything right now. So I really love that about him, because it reminds me of someone who a couple of years ago said to me, you need to think of like a scientist or an innovator. A scientist works with a hypothesis. They don't know if it's going to come true, but they're willing to experiment to find out how it's going to work or if it's going to work. And same thing for an innovator. They think of something that no one else has thought about, and they don't know if it's going to work. It might even crumble completely, but they're willing to experiment. They're willing to get out there, get the feedback, and from there on either improve or drop the project entirely. So what I would love for you to adopt is a mindset of, I'm going to experiment with this. And the power of an experiment is, I think it's going to work out this way, but it might not. And just use the feedback to improve or to drop something. So don't think about getting perfect. Focus on progression. Focus on what's next. How am I going to improve on this one? How am I going to make progress on this one? Instead of trying to get it right immediately, because you could be spending years perfecting something and then launching it, and then the world has just surpassed you, and that no one's waiting for that product or service. So focus on progression instead of perfection. Now, yesterday, I'd like to share a story with you. Yesterday, I delivered a session on setting goals inside a membership group where I'm one of the featured experts. And I delivered a facilitated session around, we've got 10 weeks left in 2020. And what I would love for you to do is set goals for how you want to spend the remainder 10 weeks of 2020. What do you want to achieve? And we literally positioned it as what you want to celebrate on the 31st of December 2020. What's the one thing that you would be so happy if you get to achieve that on that date, knowing that this year has been a very remarkable year. And a couple of things happened that easily could have gotten people into overwhelm and paralyzation. Is that they focus on tasks, which just gets you into the busyness, which triggers the overwhelm. So tasks are what you do on a day-to-day basis. And what I want you to do with goal setting is to take the helicopter view. We stay in the grind, doing, but we barely take a helicopter view on our business to think, okay, what do I really need to do? What's working in my business? And what do I need to change or to keep doing that works? So that's one of the patterns that I see easily triggers overwhelm for people. The other pattern that I saw happen in the session yesterday is that when I asked them to set goals, is they went into, but I don't know what because I don't know how. Now a goal is a what by when, not a how, because you might not know exactly how you're going to do something, and that might be your very first step, is to do research on how you can achieve the goal. So those are the things that I see happen a lot, while trigger the overthinking and trigger overwhelm, which are not helpful in any way, shape or form. So focus on what you want to achieve by when, and instead of what the day-to-day grinding and tasks, everything, because you don't have to figure out everything at once. In any way, shape or form. We can't. There's 10 weeks left, and whatever you come up with today might be different than what you need to do in about a week's time. That's the power of monitoring and measuring. You can make changes as you go, and that's the Start Now, Get Perfect Later of Rob Moore, is improve along the way. Just make sure that you get that feedback and you monitor and measure so that you know what you need to improve and what you change along the way. So that's another tip on how you can reduce or even prevent overwhelm entirely. So let me see and have a look at my notes so I can make sure that I have shared everything that I wanted to share with you today, because I see time is going really fast. And let me see. Yes, the last thing that I want to share with you is the relationship between what you do and how you think about what you need to do and what you want to achieve. A lot of the tasks and to-do list problems that I see with entrepreneurs is that when I ask them, but if you're overwhelmed with everything that you need to do, can you explain me to what goal? What's the purpose behind this task? And if you can't explain the relationship between the task and what you want to achieve, then you're just getting into busyness instead of actually working towards your goal. And as you know, I am passionate about making our time and attention and our effort as effective as we can. So I want you to get into a practice of, I want to do the things that are going to move me forward in achieving my goal. So you have to be able to answer the questions, is this task contributing to my goals? Yes or no? If it's a no, then that specific task goes onto your stop doing list. So you've got your to-do list and you've got your stop doing list. If it's a yes, then how is it contributing to your goal? If you can answer those two questions, you will have the clarity, focus and direction that will help you to prevent and reduce overwhelm in many of the times. So thank you for watching another session of the Brand Builders TV. I hope you have found it useful for you and that you're going to take away at least one practice to do more of in the next couple of weeks. Please let me know how you get on and whatever questions you might have around this. I'd love to share more about this. Unfortunately, our time together for today has come to an end. I wish I could spend more and more time with you, and I am going to. I will be right back next Thursday, 12 p.m. UK time for another session on another topic to help you get to where you want to go in the most fun, easy, relaxed and effective way that you can have. For now, have an amazing day, have fun and see you next week. Bye.
I hope that you've enjoyed the show today as much as we've enjoyed making it for you. If you've got anything out of this episode, please do tell someone else how they can subscribe to the Brand Builders TV channel at youtube.com/brandbuilderstv. Why not join us at our next Brand Builders Thinkubator, a global mastermind that we run every week to take away the loneliness of being in business on your own. For more information and to book your place, visit light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. That's light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. Until next time, be the ripple that you wish to see in the world, and we'll see you soon.